Hi, everyone. I am Ann, and welcome to today's message. Today's message is Awaken to a New Life from Ephesians 5:14. Therefore, it is said, Awake, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Awakening begins as soon as you stop choosing to fit into this small world. So let's talk about it. What is awakening? Well, it's a complete collapse of what you know as your human identity. And the reason you go through the pain within it is to collapse that identity, which is a false identity that you have here on earth, and the illusion that makes you act in a sinful, selfish, and immoral way. A life without God is like being asleep. And we drift around this world, eyes wide open, but not aware that we have a profound purpose. And when this happens, you become purified in God, and you come to an inner unity with your soul. And our soul is way beyond anything that our human mind can grasp. And a crazy and amazing transformation occurs. What happens to you is deeply personal. And you have to check yourself at the door and assess your life. And you have to let go and give it all to God and let Him fight for you. And you stop going through the motions of religion and you embrace a life of true faith. It is the single most important decision that you will ever make in your spiritual life, to choose to be awakened. And it's the moment that you fully open your eyes to understanding God's truth and purpose in your life, and your heart and your mind choose to answer the call of Christ and experience the full life that is promised to you by God. As humans, when we're born, we are born pure-hearted. But the world around us determines who we become. And we choose every day of our life to do certain things, even as children. And though our parents make many decisions for us, by the time that we become adults, we have become ravished by what we call humanity. And we live in the dark, but we don't really understand that. We become aware at the time of our awakening, and it's like a bright light shining on us, and suddenly our entire life changes. And it's an invitation from God. When you're lost and you come to the light, this change isn't only spiritual and profound, but it changes you physically and emotionally. And that is the moment that you suddenly see the world in God's unconditional love and grace. And you step out of confusion and you come alive. And you choose to love in clarity and in God's divine purpose for your life. You choose to be filled with hope and guidance, wisdom and discernment. And you allow God to dispel all darkness in your life, and you choose to heal. And you literally become a different person. And you bring hope to others and show them how to find God too. And you choose unity, forgiveness, joy, and pure love. And you are set apart from the darkness that you used to roam around in. And you reject your past and you pursue a different life. You've heard me now so many times explaining where I was in my life. And to be honest, some days it felt like pure hell, but most were okay. And I walked around with a beaming smile on my face, but inside I was a terrible mess. And my days were full of routine, mindless work. I was content, but I had no sense of self. And I was too busy filling everyone else's cup and allowing mine to run empty. I was sick a lot. I was on chemo. And I was kind of lost. I had a relationship that ended that was incredibly painful for me. And I would say I was somewhat detached from my life. As I found out later, that was my trigger. The void in my life that was more powerful than any others had ever been. And then I suddenly began my journey with no warning. It was straight up pain and suffering for 5 grueling days. And I've said it many times before, the most painful days of my life. I faced every diverse thing that had ever occurred in my life, one right after the other. And until I forgave, I couldn't move ahead. I'll tell you, it didn't take me long to realize that the faster that I cooperated, the faster I moved ahead. And once I got past that, I found a new journey. And today I would like to share that with you. Now, my new journey was less painful than the beginning of the journey when I was awakened. But I was left to wonder, what is my purpose? Who am I now? And what happened to me? Why am I even here? And what is the point of all this happening to me? I was still a bit confused and wondering if I needed medical help, actually. I figured out later that was a trauma response, something I was very aware of in my life, but I had not understood that it even had a name until this happened to me. And I somehow just knew it was a God thing, but I had no idea how I understood that. And then it happened. I went to bed and I woke up viewing the world entirely different, from an entirely different perspective. I couldn't only see the outer world with my eyes, but I could see it from within. And I could hear the Holy Spirit telling me what I needed to know. And I was still wondering if I had lost every single marble that I had left. I thought about taking myself to the hospital, even thinking that I was going crazy. And I realized that at this point, I was at a crossroads and I had a choice. Choose to answer my call or ignore it. Well, I chose to answer because it was abundantly clear to me that if I chose to ignore it, I would repeat the exact same lessons and I wasn't going through that pain again. And since I've done that, my entire life has changed. I became aware of everything, and I mean everything. I knew before about energy, but I realize now that everything is energy. And I could feel all living things, not just people. And I could understand nature. I became intuitive, though I always had been to some degree. But I really didn't understand it until this time. And I began to understand weird coincidences and patterns and found that nothing, absolutely nothing in the world is random. And I understood that there's more to life than meandering around. And strangely, I found myself at total peace, something I wasn't used to. I found myself connected to something more. And I began expanding my thoughts and my mind. And for the first time in my life, I chose to love God and then myself more than anything else. I realized that we are one with the universe and part of something gigantic. And the world became a lighter and brighter place. And then something happened. I became a hermit. And I laugh about that because I, in general, am a very social person. And when I say I became a hermit, I mean I chose to live solitary. I chose to remain single and not even date. I stopped connecting with most people. And I realized that I'd been cleansed in the Holy Spirit, but I had totally disconnected. I felt a little lost again, and I realized that this was intentional. This became my time to heal, to rest, to eat better, and become who I was meant to be. And I created this platform. I spent hours in nature and outside, and I became grateful, more loving, kinder, and grounded. I understood and learned why people actually hug trees. Did you know a tree will actually heal you? I learned to be still and accept that God was showing me something amazing, which was hard for me because I've never been a still person my whole life. And I learned lessons and I incorporated those into my daily life. I began praying more, reading my Bible and journaling. And my spirit, soul, and earthly human body became one. I came into alignment within my soul. And I understood that this is what I had to do to continue on. And I found curiosity like a child. I became empathetic and compassionate toward others, even those who had hurt me. And I rested and chose not to let negative thoughts enter my mind. And I shifted, and all I could see was now. I could see how my past had been purposely created to give me a future, how my pain was done on purpose, chosen so that I could help others by understanding them, how I lost people in my life because God was protecting me from them. And I understood now that that loss was just part of my journey. And I didn't judge them. I just understood that we're not on the same journey and they chose a different path than me. But mostly what I want to say to you today is this. There will be times when you get to this place in the journey where I am right now, where you're a different human. And I still have tendencies that come with being human. I'm just more aware of them now and I control them. And I am by no means at the end of my journey. No, this is just the beginning of my new life, my authentic life. And I'm discovering more and I'm growing every day. But God freed me from the humanness with his unconditional love. And I want you to know that it wasn't an accident. There is no coincidence. There is a human bond, a dangerous one that binds us in this world and it divides us. And it's meant to do that. It's the devil who allows you to remain in the dark, in hell. And I want you to know that hell is not a place, it's your mind. It's your mind and your ego that bring you there. And until you choose to love and live in the likeness of God, well, you'll remain there. So today I urge you to choose to be aware of God. Choose to quiet your heart and choose to experience this love, his unconditional love. My friends, choose to awaken in the unconditional love of Christ. My friends, love is the answer. If this resonated with you, please like and share my post. And thank you for your donations to my divine mission and for helping me to keep my messages alive. I'll see you next time.